1966. I was 16 years old. Laredo's primary economic drivers were the Laredo Air Force Base and tourism. I think one of the primary things in 1966, and it came from a lot from the history of the LDF, is that people like Carlton Whitworth and Honoré Lagarde and Max Mandel and stuff were involved in the early 60s up to the Development Foundation birth in 1966 and gathering information and promoting Laredo and coming up with stuff. So some of the primary things in 1966 that happened, the Unaworld test track was opened. It was a big generator, and based on the efforts of these gentlemen. And another thing that happened, Bob Troutman was very involved with these gentlemen, with this group, and he was convinced to build Del Mar Industrial Park. That was really the first real industrial park in Laredo, and the Laredo Development Foundation eventually bought a piece of property there and built a building that was continually leased. Probably most of you remember Levi Strauss the best, that was there probably the longest. You know, and as time went on, Del Mar Industrial Park developed, and Ruben Garcia and Pepe Trevino developed some properties, brought some other industry in, and Sony had a facility there as well. Those were the primary drivers of Laredo economy at that time. I think when the air base closed in '73, my recollection, I'd just come back from college in '73, and there was pretty much a sense of panic with pretty much everyone here, and I think it kind of pushed everyone to keep moving forward with either shelter programs or eventually the Maquiladora program. My involvement with the Laredo Development Foundation began really in 1981, indirectly. Gary Jacobs was very instrumental in bringing to the table General Motors and the Del Laredo project. He was very instrumental in getting the Longoria family to develop an industrial park in Laredo. Probably the best thing about the LDF in my mind is this is where I met my wife of 32 years. So it was a great experience. Stayed with the LDF for 16 years and through the 80s and 90s, and it was always a good thing to do. We really enjoyed it.
Very first industrial park that was really promoted by the Laredo Development Foundation was on Troutman family land, which was a farm right on the river. It's still there today, called Del Mar Industrial Park. That effort really was done by my father-in-law, now deceased, Max Mandel, Carlton Whitworth, Pepe Martin, then mayor of Laredo, and the Troutman family, probably others, Radcliffe Killam, and that was successful because it helped bring Transitron here, which was one of the first industries. In my banking career, the first industrial park that I played a role in financing was close by, and that was called a modern industrial park. And the genius behind that was Ruben Garcia, modern construction and modern machine. And those two really got the whole Laredo industrial park program going. Max was a die-hard promoter of Laredo in every respect, both Los Dos Laredos, Nuevo Laredo and Laredo. Many accomplishments, but little known, financing La Posada Hotel for the Herring family, and Jack Rice Turner was the architect, and Max was a believer. And in those days, he kind of threw all the rules out and said, this is a great vision, this is going to be a big asset for Laredo, and he backed it 100% for years and years and years. And at that time, La Posada was probably the only 4 or 5 star hotel anywhere within 500 miles of here. So it was a really nice thing that the Herring family did, and that Max played a big role in financing. Also would like to congratulate the Laredo Development Foundation on 50 years of great service to the community on behalf of our family and the many friends of development in this community.
My first involvement with the Laredo Development Foundation was when, in February of 1981, I flew into Laredo as part of the team looking to place a General Motors plant in Mexico along the border. And the LDF was very instrumental in showing me the quality of life in the area and also making introductions to various maquila managers that were already in Nuevo Laredo, which allowed us to do a good survey of what we could expect as far as management-union relationships. And then the LDF team, which included Gary Jacobs, Max Mendel, Lyle Edward Leyendecker, Frank Leach, and the LDF staff, did everything they could to answer my questions, answer the questions that GM had at the time. In talking to the various maquila managers that the LDF facilitated my meeting, we found out that it was very possible to have a good relationship with the union and the professor in Nuevo Laredo, and that cleared the final hurdle for General Motors deciding to put the first GM plant, which we named El Laredo, in Nuevo Laredo. Now, after that, in the next 4 to 6 years, 1981 to 1992, I became more involved with the LDF, and there was a spurt and a growth of maquilas in Nuevo Laredo. We went in 1981 from 7 maquilas. By the 1991-92 period, there were approximately 64 maquilas that had located. The workforce had grown to approximately 22,000 employees, and most of those maquilas had established distribution centers, warehousing, offices in Laredo. So it was a very exciting period, 1981 to 1992. We had many independent restaurants, both in Laredo and in Nuevo Laredo, which we all enjoyed, so it was a very exciting time.
My role and my involvement with the Laredo Development Foundation dates back to 1988. Our role in our involvement in promoting the North American Free Trade Agreement, I think, became the focus. At our end, NAFTA, which was eventually approved in 1993, the involvement of individuals like Frank Leach and Angela Palacios Shipton, who were the key players here in the LDF, they got so involved with us at the BTA that as our home here, a lot of the information that we were able to generate from the border came from the writings and the information generated by then Frank Leach, who was the executive director, and of course the rest of the team of the LDF. We worked diligently with the city of Laredo, the county, and the LDF, and the entire border region, and actually sharing the benefits of what NAFTA would mean for us on the border. And I think the fruits of all of that work by the LDF and cities like Laredo have proven to be, very successful, and the benefits we see it today, what it brings to us and what it means to us, and how to enhance the quality of life and business activity for the border region. They were great years, exciting years, a lot of recruiting, a lot of great interchange, dialogue between the border communities and Washington and Austin and Mexico City, DF, and other parts of the northern states of Mexico as to how we could all work together. I really credit the LDF for being there at the most critical time in 90, 91, 92, and 93 eventually, when NAFTA was passed and went into effect in 94. So I think if you want to focus on what Laredo and LDF meant, Laredo became the NAFTA city on the border, and LDF was instrumental in making sure that the right story was told from cities like Laredo and Nuevo Laredo.
Since I was president of the LDF in the late 70s, I would have to say it's a completely different world. Laredo was just beginning its development as really as an active cross-border community, and a little bit of the maquiladora industry was beginning to flourish along the border and into Mexico, and I guess it was just the beginning steps for the city. And since that time, obviously we've seen explosive growth and many factories built in Mexico, and cross-border trade is multiplied by literally the thousands as we see today, with 15,000 trucks crossing the border a day versus just a very few back in that time. So it's really a day and night difference. And we were dealing with 1 and 2 type things, and today it's literally hundreds of companies are constantly looking to grow and build and expand along the border of the United States and Mexico and into the interior of the country as well. The Laredo Development Foundation is important to the border because, like in all cities, we need an economic development foundation of some type, some organization that has its focus on developing the economic side of the community. LDF has really done a great job over the years of maintaining that focus and that continuity that's so important to success. You build a business relationship and you build business activity over a long period of time. And if you don't have an organization in place, it's got that constant effort, a constant focus. So LDF is a necessary part of our community, and it always has been, and I believe it always will be. I just want to really congratulate the LDF for 50 years of service. As IBC is celebrating its 50 years as well. I guess we started out in the same neighborhood at the same time, and we've grown and sustained ourselves. And LDF has been there all during the history of IBC. And we're proud to say that we've worked directly with LDF over all those years. I was president or chairman of that organization. We've had a number of our officers and directors of IBC who have volunteered and been a part of that organization. I can remember no time in which someone from IBC hasn't been engaged with LDF on a volunteer basis to help and to support the activity. And really we are aligned because our goal is to develop the economy, develop business relationships, build solid foundations for the future, and that's very consistent with what LDF is involved in too. They want to create jobs, build a positive future, and certainly we've been aligned for many
years, all 50 of them, in the same goal and the pursuit of the same objective. So congratulations to LDF for 50 years of service to our community.
Well, in response to the question of the economic climate in Laredo that I'm familiar with, that will go back a little over 20 years. I came to the city 22 years ago and have had the distinct privilege of serving with the Laredo Development Foundation on the board of directors, the executive committee, and one term as president. A distinct honor and a pleasure. I have seen changes. The climate of the city, in my opinion, has been impacted very positively by the Laredo Development Foundation. It's amazing that this 50 years have passed so quickly, and that means 50 years during which time there has been a concerted, dedicated, and significant effort on the part of an organization to promote the economic and industrial development of our city. In that regard, I think it has been extremely successful. The éxitos, the success of the organization, can be measured in a number of ways, not the least of which is the number of jobs that have been created as a result of businesses that have come to the city of Laredo as a direct result of the outreach of the Laredo Development Foundation in attracting industry to our city. And again, after 50 years of successful operation, it is a distinct honor and pleasure on my part to have the opportunity to offer heartiest congratulations to this organization on the event of the 50th anniversary.
Laredo Development Foundation plays a very important role for people coming to Laredo to invest. The last 15 years have been a period of staggering change for South Texas. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who hadn't been down in Laredo in many years, and he couldn't recognize it. But if you think about where we were 15 years ago, we didn't have the World Trade Bridge. We didn't have the LEA. We didn't have Unitrade Stadium. The Loop was just getting started. And you think about how the movement of people and the movement of goods and how Laredo has progressed because of that. This period is also marked with many challenges. We went through the great financial crisis of 2008 that made it difficult to attract business, and people were concerned with investing. Yet the Laredo Development Foundation of Laredo fared well during that period and were able to consolidate a lot of the logistics gains that we had made. And also the period of instability in northern Mexico was also a challenge for attracting business. And I think that LDF played, along with the Chamber of Commerce and other local groups, of making sure that the rest of the country knew that Laredo was a great place to invest and to live and to work. And again, Laredo Development Foundation was instrumental and played a key role in organizing and supporting our local government, private investors, and also working with different stakeholders in other parts of the states, for instance, Corpus Christi and San Antonio, Monterey, and trying to develop us as a regional hub and not only developing the local economy. I was honored to work with Dr. John Adams, who played a great role in all these projects, and it was an honor and pleasure to work with him. And again, it was an honor and pleasure to serve. It was a great time and I enjoyed it very, very much, and it's a pleasure to continue to work with the Laredo Development Foundation.